It's over.
It's not over yet.
Anime is rife with fantastical, magical, and uniquely powerful characters ranging from wizards to demons to angels. While they all have various powers, there is one power that's valued above all, the power of immortality. Many characters have waged wars in order to attain this power, however few have managed to ultimately succeed in obtaining it. This video is all about the 15 strongest immortal characters in anime. Ranging from Ryuk to SosukeAizen, this is a power-packed list. So get yourself some popcorn and let's dive straight into it.
You've taken quite a liking to it.
Ryuk, Death Note. One of the most widely known anime characters in history is Ryuk. He's a death god who plays an integral role in the famous anime Death Note. As a god of death, his primary job is to record the names of people who are dying in his notebook. He receives a far longer life in exchange for doing his work well, being practically immortal. However, Ryuk gets bored easily and occasionally lends his notepad to other individuals to pass the time. In fact, the events of Death Note are set into motion when Ryuk steals a second Death Note, tosses it into the world of people, and lets Light find it. Ryuk stays with Light and waits to see what happens, and thus all of the chaos that ensues is a result of an immortal wishing to amuse themselves. Ryuk is an immortal god of death who can't perish, and thus death, even at a mass level, seems insignificant to him. He is also largely undetectable to humans. Only people who have touched a Death Note have the ability to see a Shinigami, thus he is mainly only visible to Light. However, Shinigami are immune to injury and may pass through solid objects unharmed. Any wounds they sustain heal almost instantly. This power further adds to Ryuk's immortality. However, technically, Ryuk and other Shinigami can die under specific circumstances. If they get lazy and neglect their duties, forget to write down human names, or if they mess up and kill the wrong human, their lifespan can be reduced. But considering the fact that they can continue to write down names and extend their life, it is highly unlikely that any of the death gods are dying anytime soon.
Incompetent, incapable of doing anything on your own. You're not worthy of the lowest pitch.
Alucard, Hellsing. The next character on this list is a vampire from the popular dark fantasy anime Hellsing. And if there's one thing we know about vampires, it's that they are immortal unless otherwise killed. Kota Hirano's Hellsing series stars Alucard as a lead character. The Hellsing organization, which fights vampires and other supernatural beings, uses him as their most potent weapon. Alucard is more than just a simple vampire. It has been suggested that he is the most powerful vampire still living, and that he may be the most formidable figure in the entire series, only being surpassed by the Captain and Alexander Anderson in terms of power. Alucard is immune to diseases and aging, and while it is unknown if he is a real immortal, he is at least biologically immortal, which means that unless someone kills him, he will be able to continue living forever. Although the vampire claims that there are no actual immortals, this seems to be the case for structural immortality, which refers to miraculously healing or coming back after being actively killed by another, usually in battle. Therefore, there is a way to kill Alucard, since it is made clear that his immortality is simply biological. Anderson's references to him being alone and his fight with Walter implies that if his seals are broken, he will be vulnerable to having his heart pierced, as well as other types of injury which would ultimately destroy him forever. However, Alucard has experienced all kinds of harm and injury to the greatest extent, and yet has managed to rebuild or reconstruct himself every time, indicating strong regenerative and healing powers. This shows that biologically, owing to his nature and species, he is extremely difficult to kill. Fushi, To Your Eternity. To Your Eternity is a solemn and bittersweet anime that revolves around the concept of life and death. The plot of the anime largely revolves around an entity called Fushi as he learns to understand what it is to be human via meeting, interacting, and connecting with different characters. They all teach Fushi new and different things, and Fushi, on the other hand, prolongs their death as much as possible as an exchange or return gift per se. Fushi was originally only an immortal orb, but it quickly started to assume the form of deceased individuals. The orb initially changed into a wolf before becoming a young boy. Fushi is thus an immortal entity who can take on the appearance of anything if he receives enough stimulation. Early on, his shapes reflected any injuries or defects he was aware of and were precise replicas of how he last saw the person. Fushi is able to transform into any of his many forms, each of which is capable of wreaking havoc at any time. In addition, Fushi has the power to produce, or rather reproduce, anything he has touched, including food, sticks, and other items. Fushi has gradually come to understand the full scope of his abilities. Before developing a sense of self, Fushi would just imitate others' behavior and behave instinctively. As his ego has matured, he has grown into a loving and empathetic person who is motivated by sheer curiosity and a drive to build a harmonious society. Fushi is a unique immortal being with many human characteristics that can conflict with his eternal nature. Due to his immortality and the suffering that he has personally experienced, as well as pain that is beyond human comprehension, Fushi despises pain in all of its manifestations and will stop at nothing to avoid it. He avoids fighting wherever possible and finds the idea of killing a living thing repugnant. He is truly one of a kind. Zombieman! One Punch Man. One Punch Man's Zombieman is an S-rank hero of the Hero Association and is a product of the House of Evolution, which is an evil organization that attempts to create the perfect human warrior. Zombieman has performed numerous feats on the show, which have led fans to believe that he is immortal. He can recover from all kinds of wounds thanks to his absurdly quick regeneration. Zombieman's ability to regenerate makes him a challenging foe because he can revive himself quickly, making it extremely difficult for an opponent to flee. No matter how serious the injury, he has the ability to regenerate any part of his body. He was, on one occasion, able to totally recover from having a hole in his brain as well as broken arms in a matter of seconds. Zombieman won't pass away even if his organs blow up or he gets beheaded. He is also able to perform these feats of regeneration extremely quickly. His ability to regenerate makes death almost impossible for him. However, he is not truly immortal and will perish if he is turned into mincemeat. Thus, this regeneration does not grant Zombieman complete immortality. Zombieman has different strategies to combat his adversaries because he is not as physically strong as other S-rank heroes. He openly admits that he is much more adept in stealth and infiltration, but he is more than eager to engage in direct battle if necessary. He is completely aware of his limitations. However, being injured is not one of them since no injury is enough to stop him, unless you turn him into mincemeat, of course.
Come on, Kakazu. Would you please bring my body back to my head? Pretty please?
Hidan, Naruto. Another character from Naruto, Hidan is a well-known shinobi who left his own village. He defected from the Yuga Kare and joined Akatsuki after turning into a rogue ninja. He isn't the most intelligent character in Naruto, but his invulnerability and immortality are what really makes him a threat to others. Hidan was a devoted student of Jashin, and through the use of Jashin's method, Hidan was able to achieve immortality. Hence, his greatest strength is his inability to die from almost all causes, with the exception of starvation, as a consequence of intensive testing with the various procedures of the Jashinists. Because of his immortality, he can endure countless lethal wounds and practically any type of mutilation. In fact, after having his head severed, he was still able to talk. However, Kakuzu had to reconnect his head and other body parts because they still needed to be attached to his body in order for him to control it. So while he cannot put himself back together and needs a teammate to do so, he certainly won't die in the case he is dismembered. Hidan had no trouble defeating opponents like Asuma, Shikamaru, and even the tailed beasts thanks to his immortality. His method of combat consists of stealing the blood of his adversary, then ritualistically stabbing himself so that the wounds he received would be reflected on the victim whose blood had been stolen. Hidan also possesses excellent healing power, with the best illustration being how quickly he recovered from numerous wounds he received during his fight with Asuma and Shikamaru. This healing power, coupled with his immortality, made him an absolute pain to fight against since he was pretty much unstoppable.
Too easy. Striking Shadow Snake!
Orochimaru, Naruto. Keeping with the Naruto theme, next we have Orochimaru. Orochimaru, who was formerly an illustrious ninja of the Hidden Leaf, evolved into one of Naruto's most fearsome antagonists. Even though he was a member of the legendary Sannin and had the job of Hokage on the table, Orochimaru was solely concerned with extending his life. He desired immortality in order to live all the lives required to complete his mission. He defected from Konoha rather than suffer for his ambitions after being exposed for carrying out unethical experiments on others in the community for the purpose of this immortality. For many years, he tried to orchestrate the village's devastation in order to exact revenge and prove what he had learned. He conducted a great number of cruel tests in his quest to find an immortality technique and eventually discovered a method that allowed him to switch between bodies, giving him endless life. Over the years, Orochimaru underwent several changes in his pursuit of immortality and the ideal body. He can quickly recover from the majority of battle wounds. He can regurgitate a brand new, fully healed body or rejoin his dismembered parts in the case of more severe wounds, like bisection. For improved maneuverability, Orochimaru's body can also stretch and modify its shape. In fact, his true form is that of a giant white snake post all the experimentation. He can also withstand being stabbed by the massive sword of Totsuka and bounce back, and he can even withstand many well-placed augmented blows from the already extremely powerful Tsunade without suffering much damage. And it's sometime following the Fourth Shinobi World War, Orochimaru's physiology developed the capacity to effortlessly rebuild his missing anatomy. His immortality is hard-fought and serves him well.
Captain!
Bon. 7 Deadly Sins. The 7 Deadly Sins are a band of knights with extraordinary abilities, and Bon is one of them. He is best known for his superhuman resilience that he gained thanks to spending enormous amounts of time in purgatory and also his immortality. Like many others on this list, Bon did not get his immortality at birth, rather he acquired it later in life. This happened when he met Elaine in the Fairy King's forest. When a demon attacked the forest, Bon attempted to resist it but was severely hurt in the struggle. Elaine, however, did not want to let him die since she had other things in mind for him. Thus, she gave him the water from the Fountain of Youth, which saved him and healed all of his wounds instantly. Bon was thus given the ability to become immortal, and this gift would eventually enable him to save the world. Thanks to his ability, he never ages, doesn't require food or water, and is resistant to all poisons. Due to his immortality, he is able to fight far more rashly than most people are willing to since injuries do not faze him. Bon's blood also has the ability to cure others' wounds and totally renew the Fairy King's forest because it was merged with the Fountain of Youth. Bon, however, lost this power when he revived Elaine with the use of the Fountain of Youth. He stands out on this list because he gained immortality and later lost it, as he gave it up in order to save his wife's life. Wen-Cowboy Bebop. You wouldn't anticipate this young child to be immortal, despite how strange he initially appears to be. Wen, who appears as the primary adversary in the episode Sympathy for the Devil of the anime series Cowboy Bebop, is a minor antagonist in the anime. Wen used to be an ordinary kid who enjoyed playing the harmonica with his parents. However, after an astral gate accident, Wen became trapped in his body, perpetually stuck as a 12-year-old. When he opened his eyes, he discovered that his parents had perished in the crash, and that he was the only survivor. And even though this little immortal was impervious to death apart from certain circumstances, he nevertheless needed adult supervision wherever he went. Thus, he would kidnap older guys, paralyze them, and pretend that they were his father or guardian in order to conceal his condition. On Mars, Wen developed a talent for the harmonica and spent many evenings performing there. Being stuck in a 12-year-old's body forever is simply tough luck. While many would kill for immortality, there is very little one can do as a child, even if they are immortal. He was not able to keep up his charade for too long and was soon whisked away to a secret facility where he was experimented on. He was eventually killed using a special gem which accelerated his aging. At the time of his death, he was around 62 years old, stuck in the body of a 12-year-old. He was happy to finally age and die and is thus considered to be a tragic villain. Kei Nagai, Ajin. The protagonist of the anime series Ajin is Kei Nagai, an immortal being. Kei is invincible since he is an Ajin, a supernatural being with regenerative abilities. The sole thing distinguishing Ajin from other humans is their ability to produce invisible black matter, or IBM, within their bodies, which renders them immortal. Because of the way his ability works, he cannot perish from any cause whatsoever, included being entirely crushed, being beheaded, suffering from an illness, or even starving. However, However, much like us humans, Ajins too inevitably die once they reach old age. Thus, he is impervious to harm, but still at the mercy of time. In the show, Nagai often worries that if his head is severed and a new head develops on his body, he will no longer be able to govern his body. Thus, immortality is not always a bed of roses. His immortality was on the show right from birth. Due to him being an Ajin, Kei was resurrected after initially passing away as a baby. Although the cause of his death was never stated, some speculate that it might have been perinatal hypoxia, which happens when a baby is born without enough oxygen, or a more severe form of the illness that his sister Eriko has. Since the first Ajin had just been discovered, the doctors who were trying to heal him thought it was a miracle because Ajin were not well known at this time. Thanks to this power, Kei has proven time and time again that he can withstand even the most hazardous circumstances throughout the whole series. After surviving an automobile accident that should have killed him, he learned that he was an Ajin. Kei has the ability to paralyze people with his screams, in addition to being immortal. SosukeAizen. Bleach. One of the most well-known anime villains ever is undoubtedly SosukeAizen from Bleach. He pretended to be innocent, deceiving everyone while diligently plotting to amass an unimaginable amount of power since his true goal was to overthrow the king of the Soul Society. Aizen was a captain in the Gotai 13, the military branch of Soul Society, and had a variety of skills before coming out as a villain. However, he subsequently also became immortal, which added to his repository of skills, making him positively deadly. He was, however, completely bodied by Ichigo in their fight. Nonetheless, his immortality is worth talking about. Aizen fused with Hogyoku, a sphere with incredible powers, and obtained immortal existence. As has been demonstrated, Aizen can recover from practically all types of wounds, which allows him to engage in careless fighting and offensive tactics rather than focusing on defense. Aizen's physical prowess is far superior to that of the majority of the series' characters. He is an intimidating foe because of his brilliance and other combat abilities. Even Ichigo struggled to defeat Aizen in battle. However, many fans say that his power of immortality was somewhat wasted since he subsequently spent a lot of time in the Soul Society prison. However, he kept his power of immortality even after defusing with Hogyoku, making him one of the most powerful people in the Bleach universe. After gaining immortality, his demeanor also changed. He found it laughable that he was being judged by the Central 46, a group of wise men that serve as the judiciary authority in Soul Society. Muzan Kibutsuji, Demon Slayer. The primary antagonist of the Demon Slayer series is Muzan Kibutsuji. Muzan is more powerful than all the other demons in this well-known anime series because he was the very first demon to ever be created. The first of his kind and the father of all other demons in existence, he is none other than the Demon King himself. The 12 Kizuki, a group of the 12 most powerful demons in existence, are led by Muzan and report to him. Even the 12 moons, who are capable of taking on the toughest demon slayers, are intimidated by Muzan's power. However, what makes him formidable is that all of his combat and offensive powers are combined with immortality and the invulnerability that comes with it. Muzan has a quick rate of regeneration, like all other demons, but because he is the father of demons, his rate of recovery is so quick that it nearly seems as though he was never hurt in the first place. Muzan is a monster, practically immortal in the fullest meaning of the word, one whose might makes even the deadliest demons tremble with fear in his presence. Muzan is an unimaginable nightmare, capable of creating and commanding demons and able to survive decapitation and even the total annihilation of his body. Given his immortality and immense power, he views himself as the perfect being. Only the sun can make him vulnerable, exposing some weakness. However, in order to discover a defense against the sun and therefore become totally flawless, he transformed other people into demons and spread his blood. He is practically unstoppable and is one of the strongest immortals on this list. Manji, Blade of the Immortal. One of Blade of the Immortal's two primary characters, along with Rin Asano, is Manji. He is a skilled swordsman who has lived through innumerable battles. In the plot, he is notoriously known as the 100-Man Killer because of just how many men he has murdered by the start of the series, and as Mr. 12 Blades because of how many weapons he carries. This is already an indication of just how strong Manji is, but his skills with the sword and ruthless persona are complemented by his immortality, making him an absolute menace on the battlefield. He acquired immortality as a result of a nun's curse, which could not be lifted until he had atoned for murdering 100 innocent people. The nun herself was immortal and had lived for around 800 years before encountering Manji. She cursed Manji in order to make him suffer and atone for his sins. This curse involved her placing sacred bloodworms known as Kesenshu, which made her immortal, inside Manji's body. Due to the Kesenshu inhabiting his flesh, he is able to endure practically any wound since his body will always revert to the state it was in before the Kesenshu were implanted. According to Ayami Burando, the only time his immortality does not work is if he is reduced to ashes, frozen to death, made to suffer severe body organ damage, made to go without food or oxygen, is crushed to a pulp, or is drowned. Manji was thus able to battle more recklessly than others since he was immune to death, and it also gave him the ability to carry on fighting even after being hurt. All things considered, many on this list would consider Manji's curse as a blessing, wouldn't you?
If you'll accept my conditions, I'll fix your heart and bring us both back to life.
Cocky bastard.
Sukuna, Jujutsu Kaisen. Ryomen Sukuna is at the very core of the plot of Jujutsu Kaisen. The legend goes that Sukuna was a demon. However, what we do know is that he was a terrifying sorcerer who lived during the golden age of Jujutsu. He holds the title of King of Curses as a result of his immense strength and power when it comes to curses. However, he was evil and had to be defeated. Many sorcerers came together and attempted to destroy Sukuna. It was a monumental task, but they managed to do so. However, evil never truly stays dead, and he lived through his body parts. In fact, his extremely potent curse energy allowed him to live on inside his 20 indestructible fingers. The sorcerers sealed his fingers away, and they remained among humans, roaming the earth, growing in power. Comparatively speaking, Sukuna is on an entirely different level from the other curses seen in this anime, and thus, his consciousness lives on via his fingers. He is thus not immortal in the way that others on this list are. His body has perished, but his consciousness lives on. It became obvious why Sukuna was once feared when Yuji ate one of his fingers. His consciousness settled inside Yuji's body, and the rest is history. Further, the number of fingers a person consumes directly correlates with the strength of Sukuna within them. It gets easier for him to withstand more potent blows the more fingers he swallows. Hence, Yuji's powers were bolstered and augmented thanks to Sukuna's fingers. It will be interesting to see how Sukuna navigates through Yuji's body in the upcoming season of Jujutsu Kaisen.
Please don't leave me. I'm so lonely. So very lonely.
Izanami, Noragami. The Yomi, or the Land of the Dead, is ruled by the goddess Izanami, an immortal being from the anime Noragami. She is the ruler of the underworld, or the Land of the Dead, a land that is often deserted. Izanami appears to have temperamental issues as a result of spending lots of time alone in her realm, causing her to lash out at even the slightest incident. However, she is known to have a deep desire for company. Apart from being lonely, she is also extremely powerful. With the aid of her unique talents, she can eliminate any adversary. These include summoning Ayakashi, manipulating Yomi, and altering her hair to turn it into a weapon. Even the best warriors should be cautious while battling her because she can easily defeat them with any of her lethal powers. Izanami's amazing weaponry is further bolstered by her possession of complete and absolute immortality. This only makes sense considering the fact that she is a god and the mother of the first gods. However, because she is immortal and has lived for practically forever, she is extremely old. Izanami is essentially a living skeleton in her real form, which is a body that has undergone extremely severe disintegration. It's unclear if the long, dark hair is indeed a component of her body that hasn't broken down as much, or if it's only a holdover from the false illusion she had used to appear to Yato. Izanami is depicted in all of her forms with a long white kimono overlaid with a dyed one with floral designs. All in all, she is the immortal goddess of the Land of the Dead. Cars, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. The primary antagonist of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure battle tendency is Cars. He was the leader of the Pillar Men and an exemplary fighter. However, like many others on this list, he wanted to be immortal as well. Thus, Cars wanted to use the Red Stone of Aja to perfect himself, turning him into the ideal human. He eventually acquired the Red Stone of Aja at the end of Battle Tendency, which transformed him into the ideal being. Cars acquired a number of skills through evolving into the ideal being, including immortality. This activated extreme regeneration abilities within his body, and he became indestructible. He was thus simply impossible to kill. Even though he was a vampire, neither Hamon nor Sunshine was effective in crippling him, things that would definitely spell the end for other vampires. In fact, despite being over 100,000 years old, he is still alive. He had to be launched into space by Joseph, where his body stayed frozen and his mind had effectively stopped functioning. Who knows what might occur if he ever defrosts and returns to Earth? It remains to be seen. Marvelous verdict. Characters from anime display a wide range of skills. Some can allow a person to fight multiple foes at once, while others can grant one the ability to end an entire planet. In practically every anime, immortality is one of the most desired powers. However, the reasons people want it vary. Numerous characters have lost their lives trying to get their hands on it. However, only a small number of people have genuinely succeeded in becoming immortal. Who are your favorite anime immortals? Tell us in the comments section down below. That's it for this video, but thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.